Okay, so at this point, you may be thinking to yourself, this is all great. We've talked about budgets and bookkeeping. We've talked about burn rate, customer acquisition costs, and lifetime value. Additionally, we've talked about pricing of our products and services. But you may be thinking, when do we actually get to building the operations plan? This is going to be that first offering towards building an operations plan, and this is the quant side of it. There's a lot of other details that you need in a solid operations plan, uh, things that would outline your strategy and your tactics to achieving these goals set here. But this will give you an idea of how do we build a, um, a financially conservative and sustainable operations plan when we think about it from a finances first perspective. So up here in the upper section, we have the categories of our business and how many customers we normally do, and then the revenue that we realize from those customers. Again, is all predicated on that lifetime value of the customer. So this is where that information gets to be pretty important. Um, and then we have new areas of our business that we'll be looking at in the future. So on the whole, keeping with the theme of trying to obtain $700,000 in gross receipts for a year, this is where we think we're going to be realizing that. And so again, this is predicated on two pieces of information. One is historically what has happened and our likelihood of retaining those customers. And then two is our pricing model, right? So if those two things aren't teed up just the right way, it's going to be real hard to anticipate future revenues without having some awareness of what's happened in the past. And then as we move down to row 11, what we see is a good 5 to 7 year window of projections, right? So what we're trying to accomplish here is, okay, let's look at what's happened in the past, so 2020 and 2021, and then as we move into 2022 and beyond, what do we anticipate our business being able to do? There's a handful of key metrics inside of this plan that helps inform those estimations. And two of them are revenue per seat and expenses per seat. And the reason why I like these two is it helps me get a macro sense or a view in the meta narrative of like what has my business traditionally done per employee. So when I add a new employee, what type of revenue do I need to generate in order um, to pay for that employee? Similarly, what kind of expenses will that employee need? Much will that add to my bottom line and my expenses every time I hire on a new employee? And that delta, that ratio, revenue per seat and expenses per seat, allows me to see, as I look into the future, a few years, am I keeping with that range of what my business has done in the past historically? So here's really the point that I'm driving at. Please don't try to make your business do something that it's not built to do. Sometimes our eyes can be a little bit bigger than our stomach when it comes to what we think our business can do. And I'm an optimist through and through. So don't hear me say pessimism. Hear me say to be a realist when it comes to projecting out what your business can do. Because the downside of projecting too high is that you might actually increase your spend such to meet that expected demand, and then if you don't meet the demand, if you don't actually realize that top line revenue goal and exceed it, you're going to be burning cash like crazy, and that's going to put you in a pretty stressful situation. Well, I want to see everyone avoid that. Additionally, as a nice segue, we have row 18 here, which is you're going to show us our anticipated net profit. Now, this is all dependent upon your cash expenditures as well as your non-cash expenditures like depreciation, taxes, and things like that. But what this will help us see is how much cash am I going to be carrying year over year, so that I have an awareness that as my business grows and as I add headcount to my team, that I'm always keeping at least that 3 to 6 month window of cash on hand. Hopefully more, a little bit of that. You have to be smart with your cash, especially in higher inflationary periods, because that value, that purchasing power is dropping quickly. But regardless, it's good to have it on hand because if we hit a recession and business dries up or clams up, it's nice to have that cash on hand to be able to take a few minutes to think about how might you weather that storm? And so, as I mentioned in the first video, the overview video of 8 weeks to better business finances, keeping cash on hand is really about building a bigger ship, metaphorically, because we're all in the same ocean, and we all catch big waves sometimes, and sometimes those waves, depending on the size of our boat, can be pretty damaging. And what I want to see you all do is thrive. This is about you all thriving. Underneath this is just a staffing chart, um, as far as like what roles might we need going forward. So these names are all just names that not actual real folks in mind, but this is what our team would look like as we grow and what positions we might need next. So part of that operations plan is determining not only how many folks you need, but what specifically are they doing, and choosing to add 5 more sales folks without adding folks in production is going to make the 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 operations begin to implode, because that's going to put a lot of internal downward pressure on the operations team. So who you choose as you build the team, as far as skill set goes, is super important. So anyways, I'm going to leave this with you. Would love to hear thoughts, questions, comments.